$2.5 million, age 62, ready to retire. That sounds like enough, and it probably is enough, but enough to do what exactly? Enough to spend how much? And for how long? With what level of confidence? Those are the questions nobody actually answers. And they're the questions that keep people who are completely ready to retire, financially and emotionally, lying awake at 2 a.m., wondering if they're making a mistake. Today, we're going to answer them. We're going to take a real scenario, $2.5 million at 62. We're going to build the retirement plan live right here, so you can see exactly what the portfolio can support, what decisions move that number up and down, and what the difference between a good retirement plan and a great one actually looks like in real dollars. Let's get into it. This is Michael and Michelle Rich. They're 62 years old. We're going to build them a plan for them to live to 90, where they get to romantically die together holding hands. Michael's IRA has $1 million in it, and he's got a $600,000 Roth, also a $500,000 brokerage account. And Michelle has a $400,000 IRA. They have a paid off house worth $800,000 that won't play a role in this plan other than it's paid off. We have Social Security, which we're going to walk through should they take it at 62, at 67, which is full retirement age, or even wait till 70. They're currently invested 60-40. Now, I chose that because a lot of people come to us invested roughly 60% stock, 40% bond as they near or even go into retirement. And we're going to talk about should that actually be the allocation. The question is, can they spend $10,000 a month after tax? And naturally, everyone's biggest fear is, am I going to run out of money? So that's what we get to talk about today. So first and foremost, I'm going to show you an analysis tool called the probability analysis. We don't use fixed rate models very often when determining, can someone retire, how much can they spend, and what strategies do we want to layer in? Because most of our clients want to know two things. What does the bottom of the normal range, so usually the 25th percentile of outcomes, which means things didn't go well over their retirement years. And then also worst case scenarios, the 5th percentile. What does that look like? If I'm not running out of money in those scenarios, then I'm confident I'm not going to run out of money. They're not as interested in the top bands because the top bands start to become numbers that feel unbelievable. So this is Michael and Michelle spending $10,000 a month, living to 90 in the 5th percentile of outcomes. So not good. Our confidence level is very low. They still have $2.67 million at the end. And at the 25th percentile, $6.6 million. So they are looking phenomenal, just spending $10,000 a month. Naturally, they look at the 95th percentile and say $22 million, that feels unbelievable. And we don't incorporate that too much into our planning discussions. We're trying to make sure that that bottom confidence level is positive. There is essentially no scenario where they're going to run out of money. So they're spending $10,000 a month. They look really good. What should we do about that to improve it, to answer some of their looming questions? The first major looming question is, when should they take Social Security? Now, Social Security has two main components to consider: the mathematical benefit and its psychological benefit. Now, the mathematical benefit is pretty much going to always tell us wait till 70. And I'll show you, what that looks like. This is showing that they take it at 67 was the first one. Let's make them go to 70 and see what we do to those confidence levels. Well, we move 2.67 up to 2.8 million, and we hold a really strong 25th percentile. At face value, it'd say, hey, let's wait till 70. Let's just try 62. Let's look at what 62 would actually do for them. And does that keep them in a positive number at the bottom confidence levels? Well, by golly, it does. It actually remains a $2.2 million 5th percentile and a $6.7 million 25th percentile. So 20th percentile is holding really strong. In the 5th percentile, it drops just a little bit. That now allows us to think through the psychological benefit of Social Security. Here's the reality. Most of our conversations with clients who've done a good job, like Michael and Michelle here, is we want you to spend more money. That can be really hard for them. I just met with a client yesterday where we were trying to convince them to spend 3 times the amount of money they've been spending. Now, we know they're not actually going to do that, but they could And if we can get them to spend a couple $1,000s more a month, that will in and of itself have a lot of benefit because they're not spending because they're scared. And we have to deal with that fear. But you know what spends really well? Mailbox money, pension money, and Social Security. By golly, that money spends much easier than pulling out of your investment account because you know that check's coming next month, whereas you're unknown about your investment account. So we have found that taking Social Security at 62, when it doesn't affect the confidence models hardly at all, but it affects their personal confidence substantially, makes a ton of sense, which is a fairly counterintuitive way to think about it. We have to remember that we're marrying math and the psychology. If we win the math models, but you are still full of fear, thinking you're going to run out of money, psychologically dissatisfied, then who cares what the math models say? We have to win the mind and the models. So we're going to run with this age 62 assumption here for the rest of our plan build. The second one, and this is a hot topic, which is Roth conversions. They have $1.4 million of IRA money. Should we do Roth conversions? And believe it or not, the answer is maybe. Here's what we find a lot of times. People that are either doing it themselves or even advisors helping folks do Roth conversions. Again, they're going to target a pretty low tax bracket, 12% tax bracket. In this model, we're going to convert the Roth. We're actually going to withhold the taxes when we convert to Roth, and we're going to fill up to the 12% bracket. We've created some more net worth, $221,000, but we have paid $338,000 more in taxes. So doing the 12% approach, which again we see a lot, is not going to work here. Let's try the 22%. Let's see what that does. Okay, 22% is not bad. I'm creating more assets and I'm paying less in taxes. Now let's go to 24%. We're going to fill up to 24%. We're going to take enough every year to fill up to 24%. Ooh, I've only created $55,000 more, $232,000 in taxes. So in this example, 22% is actually going to be our best play, but it's not substantial. There are some clients where this number is in the millions. That's where this gets fickle. There's a lot of levers to be pulled. And we find, unfortunately, a lot of folks, and we stress test their current Roth conversion strategy, they are either not saving the most they can in taxes, but they're also, in a lot of scenarios, actually costing themselves in taxes. We love Roth conversions philosophically, but we want to make sure they actually make sense. And in this scenario, spread out over a number of years, there's not a crazy amount of taxes saved. And so if we're not really careful, we could eat that $159,000 budget of taxes saved up real quick with some other levers. So we have to be really careful if we're going to execute a Roth conversion strategy for this client. So here's the unfortunate reality. If we execute that Roth conversion strategy for this client, we have actually now dropped their confidence levels down to almost 1.7 million at the very, very bottom and 5.7 million at the 25th percentile, which is well into the 6 millions before. In this client's case, honestly, Roth conversion probably doesn't make sense. So we're going to have to really thread that needle. And again, my point in really pressing upon this is it's not as cookie cutter as my industry is like to make it. We have to year by year stress test and execute based on that year and only that year and reevaluate every single year, not commit to this thing and we're just going to do it every year no matter what. That's how you really cost yourself in taxes and make a Roth conversion strategy not make sense. Actually, you got to turn off that Roth conversion strategy. And again, you can see a pretty large jump in confidence levels at the 5th percentile and 25th percentile. All right, next lever is withdrawal strategy. So a lot of folks are saying, well, I want to spend $10,000 a month and just, let's put an inflation adjustment on that. The problem is that's not how spending usually works in reality. We have a lot of 62-year-olds like Michael and Michelle where we actually work with their parents, 85-year-old, they're only spending their Social Security. They've got $10 million and they're spending just their Social Security. And that's this phenomena that looks like the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. Often those go-go years go to your mid-70s, the slow-go years of the mid-70s through the mid-80s, and by 85, we're generally in the no-go years. And so we'll actually often model that way where we're ratcheting down spending as they hit those tripwires to show the client that you actually could and should spend even more now than you thought because this is your future reality. Let's model that and let's see how that improves the confidence levels, which is naturally going to drastically increase them. Now we're at 2.8 million at the very, very bottom and 6.8 million at the 25th percentile. So we actually improved it. We don't move it a substantial amount, but what we have now started to do psychologically for the client is help them to free up the idea of spending during these go-go years. The last strategy I want to show you, the one that is really going to make a big difference for this specific client household, is asset allocation, what they're actually invested in. They're 60-40, 60% stock, 40% bond. We find that most of the time someone is in that range, and that is usually costing them a lot of money. Our recommendation for Michael and Michelle is to go 80% stock, 20% bond. Now we have a whole math model on the back end to how we arrived at that I'm going to walk through in a different video. But for today's sake, I want to show you what that does to the outcomes. Okay, so it's 60-40. We're dealing with 2.8 million and 6.8 million as our confidence levels. And we just increased to 3 million and 7.7 million. How is that possible? How did we improve the bottom? Weren't we taking more risk? How did we improve the worst case scenarios? Obviously, we improved the best case scenarios. You're taking more risk. Or did we? Did we actually just add volatility? And the risk that we actually reduced was inflation risk. See, the reality is, unfortunately, a lot of retirees have allocated themselves in a way where they think they're conservative. They think they've reduced risk. What they've done is they've embedded inflation risk deep into their plan that will eat away as a CO2, you can't smell it, but it's there and it's a slow death to their plan. In this case, we actually reduced risk because we improved the very bottom confidence levels, the worst possible scenarios. We actually improved by going 80-20 instead of 60-40. By millions of dollars. So this is a multiple $1,000,000 decision for people that we find more than anything is missed. Quick note, if you're at or near this situation and you want us to run your specific numbers, that's exactly the conversations that we have every day. If you'd like us to take a look at your situation, there's a link in the description below. Book a call. Let's put all of these levers together and see what an optimized plan would look like for you. So what's the verdict? Well, the verdict is not every strategy works, and they have to be brought together to figure out what will actually produce the best outcomes. And then it has to be monitored every single year. They cannot just be put on autopilot. So what does this mean for you? Well, there's a lot of moving parts. We want to build a dynamic plan, combine these 4 strategies together. Now, Michael's situation is what retirement looks like when you've done the work. You get 2.5 million saved at 62, and that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of decisions made in your 40s about how to save, how to invest, how to structure your finances, and how to avoid the mistakes that quietly cost people hundreds of thousands, sometimes and often even millions of dollars before they even get to retirement. If you're in your 40s right now and you want to understand exactly what those decisions are, that's what we're going to break down in our next video. I'll see you there.